All right, let's jump right into this explainer. Today, we're going to explore the completely fascinating but totally unseen world of sound and radio frequencies that are secretly shaping our lives. We almost always trust our eyes to tell us what's real, right? But in doing that, we completely ignore this complex, vibrating reality that we just can't see. Well, today, we are going to change that.
Seriously, take a second and just look around. Right now, you and I are literally swimming in this giant ocean of invisible, vibrating waves. Even as you sit there, in what feels like total silence, the space around you is absolutely buzzing with activity. From super low frequency rumbles to high frequency radio transmissions, you are the focal point of countless overlapping signals.
Over the centuries, these unseen forces haven't just sat there. They've been standardized, weaponized, and even mythologized. Humanity has spent the last few hundred years trying to harness, control, and sometimes just hide within these frequencies. It is an amazing story of engineering, conspiracy, and pure physical power. Here is how we're breaking this down today. First, the tuning conspiracy, then weaponizing sound frequencies. After that, the mythical brown note, hearing the global hum, secret frequencies and scanners, and finally, the Russian ghost station. So let's kick things off with Section 1, the tuning conspiracy, the battle for A440. Let's start with something familiar, music. Back in the 19th century, orchestras were literally competing for the brightest sound by tuning their instruments tighter and tighter. It was this crazy phenomenon called pitch inflation. I mean, it got so intense that singers were complaining the high notes were physically painful. So from Scheibler's early tonometer tests in 1834 to the French government stepping in around 1859 to mandate 435 hertz, the world desperately needed a standard. Finally, an international conference in London in 1939 agreed on 440 hertz, which became the official ISO standard in 1955. Now, this is where it gets wild. It's totally fascinating how a purely practical engineering decision morphed into these massive urban legends. Look online and you'll see widespread claims that 432 hertz is some divine frequency of nature, or that 440 hertz was pushed by the Nazis to make the masses anxious. But the actual reality? British piano tuners wanted 439 hertz, but a brilliant electrical engineer named Sir James Swinburne pointed out that 439 is a prime number. That meant the BBC couldn't easily synthesize it electronically for their broadcast clocks. They literally just went with 440 because the math was easier. No conspiracy, just practical engineering. Moving right along to Section 2, weaponizing sound frequencies, when sound becomes a weapon. Okay, so we just talked about tuning sound for pleasure and music, but what happens when it's specifically engineered to hurt? Because sound isn't just an auditory experience. Crank up the amplitude enough, and it becomes a devastating physical force. Enter sonic weapons. These are directed energy devices actively deployed to disrupt eardrums, cause immense pain, or completely disorient a target. It's literally using vibrating air as a blunt instrument. To put that physical force into perspective, just look at what the US space program found during their rocket vibration tests. Air doesn't transfer low frequencies perfectly, so researchers actually strapped human subjects to vibration tables mounted to cockpit seats, cranking it to a staggering 160 decibels. The results? Immediate and honestly terrifying. Subjects completely lost control of their muscles. That's the severe motor ataxia. They got debilitated by nausea, their vision blurred, and they couldn't even perform basic tasks. These tests proved just how incredibly vulnerable our bodies are to intense acoustic vibrations. Which sets us up perfectly for Section 3, the mythical brown note, debunking a bowel-loosening myth. So out of those intense space program tests came a notorious urban legend, the idea that one specific low frequency can make you, well, lose total control of your bodily functions. To test this visceral theory, the TV show Mythbusters went all out. Working with audio experts, they arranged 12 massive, modified rock concert subwoofers in a ring to trap the subjects in a vortex of low-frequency pressure. They generated tones way below the limits of human hearing, eventually pushing an earth-shaking 153 decibels of pressure right into the testing ring. And the results? Well, the incredibly fast-moving air made breathing super difficult, and it caused genuine physical anxiety in their chests. But the legendary brown note? Completely mythical. No one lost control of their bowels. Turns out, the human body can actually withstand immense low-frequency pressure without that specific, highly rumored side effect. All right, on to Section 4, hearing the global hum, the sound that won't stop. Now check out this number, 4%. That is the estimated portion of the global population who can hear a constant, inescapable, low-pitched, droning noise. Researchers mapping this eerie phenomenon estimate that millions of people worldwide are essentially hearing a sound like a huge diesel truck idling off into the distance, and they can't turn it off. These unseen forces aren't mythical, but they also aren't completely understood by modern science yet.
Just listen to this quote from someone who actually hears it, Simon Payne. He said, "Whenever I wake up, it is there and it is unbelievably loud. When nobody else can hear it, you think you are going nuts, and it just wears you down." That perfectly captures the psychological toll, doesn't it? Imagine waking up every single day to a vibrating hum that your own family simply cannot hear. It drives people to move houses, lose sleep, and constantly question their own sanity. And despite massive databases and acoustic shielding experiments, researchers are still fiercely debating what's causing it. Some acousticians point to industrial urban noise, things like blast furnaces or massive fans pumping low frequencies over miles. Others suggest it's actually the microwave auditory effect, where low-frequency submarine radio signals directly interact with human skull tissue. And still others argue it's entirely neurological, an internal perception with zero physical acoustic source. The mystery continues. That brings us to Section 5, Secret Frequencies and Scanners, Tapping into the Unseen World. So, pivoting from unexplained global hums, let's talk about deliberate secret communications hiding right there on the public airways. As detailed in Henry L. Asenson's work on the electronic underground, there is an entire subculture dedicated solely to hunting down and listening to these invisible, unlisted transmissions. Armed with specialized scanner equipment, these hobbyists essentially surf the unseen radio waves around us, catching glimpses of local police ops, military maneuvers, and covert government chatter that's flying literally right over our heads. And that leads us perfectly into Section 6, the Russian Ghost Station, the mystery of UVB-76. This right here is the ultimate prize for frequency scanners, a haunting broadcast that has captivated listeners since the Cold War. Set your shortwave radio dials to 4625 kilohertz, and you're going to hear the buzzer. It's a Russian station broadcasting a monotonous tone 24 hours a day. It's been droning on since at least 1982. It just sits there, buzzing roughly 25 times a minute, occupying the frequency and waiting. But waiting for what exactly? Well, periodically that endless buzz will just suddenly stop, and a live voice will read out these highly structured coded messages. Scanners have categorized them into distinct formats: the monolith, the Uzor, and the super rare Commanda. These aren't random at all. They are believed to be direct military communications, likely verifying that receiving stations across Russian military districts are alert and listening. And sometimes they slip up. Hot microphone mistakes like this one are absolute gold for radio hunters. In 2001, listeners intercepted an accidental background conversation. A voice said over the air, "I am 143. Not receiving the generator? That stuff comes from hardware room." This totally proves the buzzer isn't just an automated tape playing in an empty room somewhere. It's an actual, live microphone sitting next to a noise generator inside an active Russian military hub. But what's really wild is how this serious military installation constantly battles modern interference. It's evolved into this bizarre, interactive battleground of the airwaves. Radio pirates frequently hijack the signal, blasting everything from classical music like Swan Lake to internet memes like Gangnam Style over the 4625 frequency. We even have records from May 2024 of an operator actively arguing with a pirate, manually tapping the buzzer to answer questions. And the station is deeply tied to real-world events too, like when the broadcast was totally cut off by a drone strike on a power station in late 2025. It is an amazing collision of old-school spycraft, internet trolls, and modern conflict. So the space around you, it's rarely actually empty. From the standard tuning of a piano to the sheer, painful force of sonic weaponry, all the way to clandestine military buzzers and mysterious global hums, the next time you put on your headphones or simply sit back in what you think is silence, take a second to ask yourself, what unseen waves are currently rushing right through you? Stay curious, everyone, and keep your ears open.